I'm about to share my desktop. Good morning and happy Friday. Thank you for joining another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today's topic is API Management Consumption Tier. Um, this is a new tier that has just been GA'd. It went into public preview a few months back, and now it's in GA. And we'll talk about it, what's different, what's same, and how you or your customer can use it. So before we jump in updates, if you are familiar with NetApp, they provide um, uh, network level file systems on-prem, and they are now available in Azure as a first-party service. This is one key thing to keep in mind, and and we will hopefully we kind of do a session on that uh, soon. But this is available, and this is available in certain region where you can take advantage of it. This is a first party server. Just keep in mind, we are actually deploying NetApp hardware in Azure Data Center, providing it as one party, party service where if you have issues, you don't have to go to NetApp. You can go to Microsoft and we will bring in NetApp support to help if needed. So that's kind of a big milestone for the customer who are migrating workloads, relying on NetApp. Second thing, I think if you are familiar with Azure Event Grid, it's Microsoft Event Broker. What it does is it allows user to publish events. It's not only, and by the way, not only Microsoft services like storage, um, um, you know, like storage or certain databases, but also uh, if you have a custom application, you want to publish events, you can use Event Grid, create a subscription, publish event to it, and other people, uh, sorry, publish event to Event Grid, and then people can subscribe to those events and do certain tasks. Now you can use Service Bus as an event handler. Before we had functions, we have Logic App, we have Azure Automation as those handlers. Now you can use Service Bus. So basically, it kind of give you a mechanism where you are accumulating those events. Those events are coming in, and you are storing them in Service Bus and then processing them. So, for example, you have events coming from all different, for example, storage, some custom events, events coming from, let's say, what we call document DB, and then you have one place, a service bus, where they're coming in a queue, and then you are processing on the other side. Just keep in mind one thing with that, that it, since it's in preview, only queues are supported. Topic and subscriptions are don't work right now. So this is as usual, you know, the preview feature set is somewhat limited, but I think once they go into general availability, you will see more and more things in this particular offering. Okay, any questions, folks? If, feel free to unmute your mic and ask question if you have one. In the meantime, I just want to share these URL. This is Azure blog. Um, I think very interesting set of information about different Azure offering is published every day almost, or multiple times a day on this one. And then we have the Azure updates. Um, Subscribe to those and find out what's new in Azure, what's new, what's coming, what's going into development, and all things like that. Okay. With that, we're going to move with our topic of discussion. Um, and this is Azure API Management Consumption tier. Okay. First of all, I'm just going to spend a few minutes on Azure API management. And once again, I would really appreciate if you can mute your phone if you're not asking questions. Okay. So API management is Microsoft first party API gateway, and it's not just the gateway, it is a full-fledged API management offering. What it provides is three things. Just keep in mind. Number one is portal. So number one is the gateway. So you can provide separation between the implementation of those API and the interface. So you can uh, set up this proxy in the middle uh, to do rate limiting, to apply, I mean, to do interesting things like logging, to change the format of the API. It may be a SOAP API, you expose it as a REST API, things like that. And the next thing is um, you have the administration tool, which is basically a part of Azure portal now. It used to be a separate
Separate
portal, but
portal.
sorry. And then what it allows you to do is um, that it um, kind of allows you to import APIs, and they can be Azure Function, Logic apps. It can be other APIs hosted, on different web apps or things like that. You can import them as over the internet somewhere. You can import them, and with Portal, you can. So this is the developer portal we're talking about. That's where API consumers can come in and subscribe for the APIs, and you can customize that portal for different organizations, for your organization, things like that. So this is kind of a quick overview of what API management does. It, as I said, it's provide a full-fledged API management solution for an organization. Typical use cases, of course, you have applications that are hybrid. You have some APIs running on-prem, you have some running in the cloud, and you want to expose them all to the outside world through this API management. For born in the cloud application, you want to provide a first-class, API gateway, providing ability to uh, manage IoT solution and their control plane API, and of course, providing an enterprise-wide API catalog. So that's some of the what you can build on top of it is provide a comprehensive catalog of APIs. A number of organizations are doing it, and where your organization, people, consumer inside your organization, outside your organization, uh, get what APIs and what services they need. Of course, it has the monetization capabilities as well, so you can monetize them. So all of this information is um, kind of all of these capabilities are available as a part of API management. A quick overview of the tiers which are available before the consumption tier. First of all is developer. Just keep in mind, developer tier is a tier with um, no SLA. It allows you to play with API management to kind of evaluate it. And if so, it's mostly suited for development scenarios. One great feature that it has is it allows you to connect to your VNet. Okay, so with that, you can access APIs that are running inside your organization. So basically, it gives you all the feature that a premium has to offer except the SLA and capacity. So in terms of functionality, I would say it is at par with premium, but performance and SLA that is not there. Of course, premium has the geo um, ability to deploy uh, APIs across different geos and control them through a single management plane. So all of these are resources dedicated that are deployed, and used as an API management solution. API consumption tier, that's where it comes into picture. So what it provides, API consumption tier, it is a serverless tier. It runs on as a kind of a piece of a multi-tenant environment. What you do is when you are creating a consumption tier, you're basically joining that multi-tier hosting environment for your API. There is no infrastructure which is provisioned or managed for you. Basically, you're just using a piece of that multi-tenant service. It has built-in high availability. It has not all the features. For example, it does not have a developer portal. It and At the same time, there is no ability to connect to a virtual network or live inside a virtual network. There is no reserve capacity that in the case of uh, basic, standard, or premium tier. And at the same time, you are pay basically you pay per use. In the case of basic, standard, and premium, once you have provisioned a SKU, your billing starts. If you don't use it, you lose it. Basically, you are still paying money for that SKU. On the other hand, with consumption, you're only paying when you are consuming, when you are kind of using to as a pass through for APIs, and when your customers are accessing it, and basically it auto scales as well. So as your load demand increases, the gateway will scale up to meet those demands. It went into preview um, a few months back, and now it is in our general release. It has some usage limits as well, and it is not available in all region. Just keep in mind, it is not available in all region. We will take a look at it, that what regions it is available now. Okay. Moving forward, so what are the scenario for which it is used for? There was a ask for from customers that they need a tier which is not dedicated, which they can a lightweight tier they can use to front their serverless application. They can be functions, they can be logic apps, they can be microservices running in Kubernetes. So all of these applications, they wanted some sort of facade where they don't have to spend a whole lot to run that, and they can simple enough but comprehensive enough at the same time cost effective way. So that's the demand that Azure API management consumption tier addresses. It's a gateway for spiky traffic, of course. If your traffic pattern changes and you don't know if you need a basic, standard, or premium, this is a good way to start. Okay. You know, if you're just doing testing and experimentation, you can look at either the developer tier, or if you want to just start with something very, very simple, then definitely consumption tier address that scenario. Okay. Any questions? Okay. One thing, so let's quickly go to a demo. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into Azure portal and try to provision a API management consumption tier. So let's go into the integration. Is the API management. I'm going to create the instance. So we're just going to name it NCAPL. And what I want to show you, the speed of creation. If you have created API management, it does take some time to create that instance. Um, but here you will see the speed. By the way, I have selected region South Central, and let me click here. Consumption tier is not available, and it shows here it's available in these regions. So let me go into North Central US, and let's try to create that over there. Okay. So we have developer and then we have the consumption. And as you can see, developer does not have an SLA. So if you're using it for dev test, it does not have an SLA. On the other hand, this tier, it does have an SLA. So we're going to just do the consumption tier, and um, we're going to do a create, and you will see how quickly we will be able to provision this API management instance. So let's quickly go in there, deployment in progress. So while it is provisioning, I'm going to go in back into an instance that I have created already, just to save time, and we'll take a look at that. Okay. So this is an API management instance. Um, this is a consumption tier API management instance. As you can see, there is no developer portal here. It is, since it's a very simplified instance. By the way, anybody has any questions while we are on it? So it's still creating. Okay. So it doesn't have any a developer portal. API provisioning process, or import of API is still the same. You can start with a blank API, or you can import an existing API. I'm just going to delete this. Or you can, for example, I can go in here and click on a logic app, browse, and I can use one of those logic app from here, and you know I have a product that I can use, and it will import this API as a new API. So it's kind of a very a simple experience that we have seen before with this. Moving forward, the products are very simple. It start without, um, you know, okay, yeah. So as you can see, it took 1 minute, 7 seconds. So I'm going back to, and if I'm sure if you have provision any of the Azure API management instance, it takes more time. So I mean, they have really enhanced the creation speed. So you can quickly create the API management instances with that. So that's kind of a powerful way to do it. Once again, going to our new instance, we can go in here and we can set, as I said, showed you create an API products. There are no product. You can create your own product, name it, APL, and you can make it published, requires approval. So any APIs that are part of this product, you can basically ask for approval that it requires subscription. You can do all of that. One other thing that is, so let's, okay, yes, test. Let's do a subscription as test, and let's create it. Okay, so this is published, and you can set up access control and all those things on that, just like you do with every other API management instance. One interesting thing, it does not have a built-in cache. Just keep in mind, any of the API management instances, they have built-in cache, not this one. This does not have a built-in cache. So what you do is you use um, the your existing cache. So if you have an existing cache server, you can use it with this API. So that's what you can do. For example, I can go in here and I can add an existing cache. So I will look for my cache instance. I have a Redis cache instance. So you can have your custom cache. So for example, are running a cache on a VM somewhere and you want to expose it, you can do that. Or um, you can just have, if you have a Redis cache instance, you can use that, and it's just picked up everything, and I'm just going to save it. And now my API is using a cache that I have provisioned just to keep the cost down. So that's what it allows you to do. Okay. Moving forward, it has full support for OAuth 2, OpenID Connect, and client certificate for consumer to API authentication. So you can authenticate API consumer through these three methods. Okay. Um, that's what it allows you to do. Once again, you have the ability to have custom domain. So let's say if you want to set up custom domain um, um for these APIs, you can go in there as well. And for example, here, if I want to set up a custom domain, I can definitely go in and set up a custom domain through certificates and things like that. So just like I do in any other API management instance, so that's very powerful feature. And of course, you can set domains for the portal experience as well if you want to change it. Managed identity, if you don't know about managed identity, it allows you to create managed identity for your app. So now API management instance. So now your management instance will have an identity in Azure AD. And what you can do is you can have this identity access other applications. So you can access a key vault to get a certificate, things like that. So all of these features are a part of this consumption tier. And at the same way, policies, all the goodies that API management have will still work with this as well. And the integration with application insight for tracing and all that will still be there as a part of this consumption tier. Okay. In terms of pricing, let me show you this. So this is the pricing portal. You will have to go into a region where it is supported. So if I go to South Central US, it doesn't show up. I have to, in the pricing portal, I have to go into North Central US. It is almost like $2 per million calls. So that's what the pricing is. As I said, there is no caching, so external cache is available. Um, there is no throughput limit. Okay, each unit has throughput limit like basic, standard, developer basic, standard, and premium. This one does not have a limit. It will just auto scale because we are billing you on the usage. So we will, I mean, as you use more, we will bill you more. One thing just keep in mind is not available is, and I think this is kind of a bit of a gap, is Azure AD integration. And the second thing is virtual network support. So there is no way you can add this or attach it to a virtual network. And I think that's kind of uh, makes it interesting where you need virtual network support. That's where you may have to go directly to the premium tier. A number of customers are using premium tier just to get attach it to their on-prem environment. So that's kind of that's something to keep in mind. That can be, that when you are looking at this, that's something you may want to keep in mind. Okay. So any questions? Okay. So, folks, as usual, I will be publishing the slides and um, the on-demand video to our YouTube channel. So just subscribe to the channel, and we are as we upload videos, you will be able to see them on demand. We will, and just keep in mind the presentation, the PDF of the presentation, the link to that will be in the description of the video itself. So if nobody has any question, I'm gonna give everybody their um, 3 minutes back. And folks, if you have a question later on, my email address is nzahir@microsoft.com. Please feel free to reach out. Once again, thank you everybody for joining. Everybody have a great weekend, and I'll see you for another power lunch session next week. Bye.
Thank you.